A bit of what I do at Rotary is that I create content that you see on Rotary International Social, if you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. And like, what does creating content mean? I identify concept, stories, people, facts that illustrate what Rotary is, its impact, in a way that's optimal for social and reaches our target audience. So we're going to talk about what exactly optimal for social means and what a target audience is. We'll get into a bit of that tonight. So if you could move to the next slide. Thank you. So the first tip, this kind of touches on what Mary Lou was saying earlier, is knowing your story. And Rotary members are so set up for success in creating great, impactful social media because you guys really know your stuff. I don't think I've ever met a Rotarian who doesn't love Rotary and can spit off a bunch of facts and impact and talk about the power of Rotary and the Rotary family. So really leaning into that. So what do you want people to learn about you when they visit your Facebook page or your Instagram page, or maybe you go the LinkedIn route? Think about if your Rotary Club had bumper stickers, or if Rotary had bumper stickers, what would they say? Inspiration for this can come from Rotary.org. They've got a lot of great key phrases on there when looking at our areas of focus. Like if you had a cleanup in going on in your community and you wanted to get some inspiration for a social post, you could go look at the environmental page. And then in thinking about what you want people to know, think about who you are. What do you do? Is there a particular cause or project that your club or district is particularly passionate about? What is the tone of voice that you'd like to speak to your audience in? Are you a more casual, laid back club, or are you a little more buttoned up about networking and business? So this can be done from a macro level, talking about like Rotary as a whole, as an organization, a global network, or it can get as specific as a particular event, project, or cause. So the Rotary International tone is persevering, inspiring, compassionate, and smart. So, I mean, you can take that and run with it as well. And then when you're thinking about all these things, write it down. Do a little sit down and write down your Rotary Club story. And this way, taking the time to do that and get it all written out, when you sit down to write a social post, you have this framework that you can pull phrases, stories from, etc. Next slide, please. Who are you trying to reach? So this is your audience. And a lot of times you can be like, everyone, I want to reach everyone, but that isn't the most effective way to approach this. So an example of who you could be trying to reach is members of my community who want to network, people who are passionate about the environment, people who are looking for a community, and then put yourself in the shoes of that person and think about what message they would be looking to see come across their phone. When creating content for Rotary International, we keep in mind that we're reaching both members and prospective members, someone who maybe has never heard of Rotary before, or someone who just has one of those ideas that you dropped in the chat, and you have a potential to kind of shift someone's image of what Rotary is just in that snapshot of when what you're posting is going across their phone. So with that said, keep your messages understandable. Avoid jargon if you can. And if you have to use jargon, explain it. Like today, I was writing a post about RYLA, it wasn't RYLA, it was Rotary Youth Exchange. And I just included it's like a global exchange between two students. So think about those things that keep that learner's mind, that someone who's not been steeped in Rotary for however long wouldn't know. Next slide, please. Oh, yeah. Social media is your online billboard. This goes with what I was saying. So Uh, Keep your messages short and snappy and understandable for someone who's just driving by online. And next slide. So assign roles. The first step and the most important step to creating content is capturing it. So when you're planning an event, don't just think about your social media to promote the event. Think about what you can capture while you're at the event that you can use to create content for future events. So in your planning, think about, oh, we need some action shots. It would be good to like get some photos of people laughing, like just things that are applicable that you could post about later. So delegating roles. Who's going to take the photos? What kind of photos do we need? And who will create the posts? And do we have an idea of what kind of post we're looking to create after this? And Mary Lou has a great point in the chat. People love a good behind the scenes point of view. And a tip I've always said is just keep taking photos. Like, luckily we're not working on film. You usually have a phone. Everybody's well equipped to take photos. So try some stuff out and you can edit later. Next slide, please. Be consistent. So people and algorithms love consistency. This is my number one tip. As a social media specialist, I get questions from my family and friends like, how can I make my social better? And it's consistency. I think consistency and quality over quantity anytime. So that could be picking one platform that you want to start on. Like, we're really going to focus on our Facebook. Or maybe if you're a more business networking club, we're really going to focus on LinkedIn, because it's easier to tackle one thing and gain your footing there than try to tackle all these different platforms at once. And then when you're posting, start small. You don't need to be like, cool, I'm going to kickstart my social media. We're posting 7 days a week. Like, let's go. That is not necessary. And if anything, platforms generally don't like if you're posting every single day. Maybe like on Instagram, if you're going to post something on stories every day, that's great, but you don't need a feed post every day. So you can start with, I'm going to post 1 to 2 times a week, create a calendar and decide what days you're going to post, because then people will expect to hear from you. And that fosters interest and trust. People will know, oh, I'm looking to get more. I want to find out how I can get involved this holiday season and give back to my community. I know that Rotary Club's Facebook is always up to date with things they're doing that I could maybe check out, and maybe it'd be an opportunity that I could get involved. So something like that. And then in that consistency, if you are actively posting on your socials, make sure you are answering your comments and messages, because you might have a potential member in there who's trying to figure out when they can come to a meeting or how they can join or something like that. And then this is also a point that Mary Lou was making, is think of when you're deciding when you're going to post, think of when the people you're trying to reach are online. Maybe like when people get off of work and they're scrolling their phone, or around lunchtime, or early in the morning. It kind of depends on who you're trying to reach. Next slide, please. Use photos that tell a story. A good photo shows action, shows emotion, evokes emotion in the viewer, and focuses on connection and community. And so you can think outside the box when taking your photos. Hands getting dirty, giving out supplies, sharing a moment of laughter. And when you're planning your events and you're talking about who's going to take the photos, you can also think of those like key moments when you're hoping to get a photo. Like, okay, we're going to have that speaker. We'd like a picture of them. But avoid big check photos. posing group photos. Those photos are still great to have for your memories, but not exactly for your social pages. Yeah. Next slide, please. Lead with impact and encourage engagement. So the equation for a social media post that I like to think about is telling a story by identifying a problem, telling your solution, and displaying its impact. So when you're creating a post, think about what you want a person to scroll away from that post knowing, and think really big pictures. So if I'm creating a post about a new global grant that is supporting treatment for cervical cancer, what do I want the audience to know? It's less so about the amount of money we got for the grant. Like, that's all great. But really, what I want them to know is that Rotary supports women and children's health. That's one of our areas of focus, that we use local networks to create global sustainable impact. These big bumper sticker key moments that help foster a better understanding of Rotary. And then another good engagement play is asking your audience questions. So, like, how are you looking to create impact in your community? How do you celebrate the holidays? Use that technique sparingly, but it is a good way to foster conversation online because, after all, people are on social media to be social. So create that social play. But yeah, use that sparingly because you never like to see like a social page where people are like the posters like asking questions and then no one's answering and it's someone shouting in a quiet room. I always think that's kind of funny. Okay, next slide. Find inspiration. Think about the content that engages you online. It doesn't have to be Rotary related, but the stories that are effective in grabbing your attention, look at the techniques they're using and how you can replicate that in your own way. I really like to look at Patagonia's social media. I think they do a really good job of telling stories. A great resource is Rotary social media. So if you don't follow those, it's a great source of information, inspiration. You can always, if you're looking to start posting more regularly and you don't know where to start, you could integrate sharing a post from RI social once a week. And then you kind of only, if you're like, I'm going to post 3 days a week, one day of the week, you could share a post from RI. And that knocks it down to you really only have to write 2. So, yeah. And so like an example of this is when I'm creating content, like I work with the archives department at RI, and we were recently talking about how we can do another video with them. And I was thinking about like unboxing videos. People love unboxing videos. So how we can apply those concepts that you wouldn't really think of that when you're thinking about history content, and apply it to that. Next slide, please. So use your tools. There are kind of tools built into different social platforms. Hashtags are one that people are familiar with. So there is the People of Action hashtag, hashtags topically related to your events. So hashtag environment, hashtag cleanup. You can also leverage UN days. If you just Google like UN calendar of days, they have these big, like World Water Day, World Immunization Week is a week long, but those kinds of events that you could kind of tailor your programming along to. And that's another thing you'll see on the RA pages. So there are these existing frameworks you can plug into that make it a bit easier. And then another tool to lean on is tagging folks. So if you're partnering with a Kiwanis club to do a community event, make sure you also tag that club, because the social media platforms love to see that you're using all the tools that they give you. So if you're on Instagram, that's using stories, polls, all of those things. Yeah, and then the other tool you have is Google. The amount of like social media is constantly changing, and so a lot of that information of like best practices, current best practices is online. So if you have a question about social media, I would recommend giving it a little Google, and just poking around and seeing what you find. There's a lot of great blogs out there. So yeah. And those are my top tips. I wanted to leave some time for questions. Oh, I didn't plug Brand Center, which is a great resource. I have in this presentation links. I'm not sure if they'll share out this presentation afterwards, but I did include links to RI socials if folks didn't follow them, and some great pages on Brand Center, which kind of does a lot of the stuff that I talked about for you. I do think it's important to tap into what makes your club and district special specifically, and not just lean on the all RI stuff, but that is a great starting point.